Sandra was not at home. But someone, or something, was wearing her red dress on the balcony, and smiling. The wind blew gently. The dress moved, just like a real person. But no one was there. Earlier that week, Sandra had just moved into her new apartment. The building was quiet and beautiful. Birds sang every morning. The security man smiled a lot. Everyone minded their own business. Sandra liked it here. She worked from home as a digital marketer. Her job was busy, but she enjoyed her peace. One afternoon, as she was spreading her clothes to dry on the balcony, a voice called from next door. "Excuse me, my dear," an old woman said. Sandra turned. It was her neighbor, a woman with gray hair and kind eyes. "I'm Mrs. Oladipo. Please, don't leave your clothes outside at night. Especially not past midnight." Sandra laughed. "Oh, Mommy, is it because of spirits?" she joked. Mrs. Oladipo did not laugh. She only said, "Some clothes should not be touched by night." Sandra smiled and waved it off. But she had already forgotten the red dress she left outside. That night, Sandra was on her laptop, working late. The clock blinked 12:03 a.m. She yawned, stretched her arms, and stood up to close the windows. The air felt strange, like it was holding its breath. Suddenly, she heard it. Tap, drag, tap, drag. Footsteps. But slow. Like someone was limping across the balcony. She froze. No one should be outside. Not at this time. She peeked through the curtains, but saw nothing, just her clothes hanging still. The red dress swayed gently. Maybe it was the wind. But the air was still. Sandra locked the windows and went to bed. She tried to sleep, but the sound came again. Tap, drag, tap. She turned on the lights. Nothing. Everything was quiet. In the morning, she checked the balcony. Her clothes were dry. She picked them one by one and folded them into her laundry basket. But when she touched the red dress, she stopped. It was cold. Not cool, cold. And it smelled strange. Like dust, wet leaves, and something older. She sniffed it again and shook her head. Maybe it's just the night air, she said to herself. But as she walked inside, she didn't see the faint handprint on the back of the dress. 2 days passed. Sandra had washed the red dress and packed it in her closet. She didn't think about it again. But something strange started to happen. It began with the mirror. One morning, Sandra stood in front of her bedroom mirror, brushing her hair. She was wearing a white shirt and jeans. But in the mirror, she saw something else. She looked again. In the reflection, she was wearing the red dress. She blinked. Looked down at her clothes. Still a shirt and jeans. She looked back up. The red dress was gone. Maybe I'm tired, she said and walked away. Later that evening, her boyfriend Daniel came to visit. As soon as he hugged her, he stepped back quickly. "Your skin, it feels cold," he said. Sandra laughed. "Oh, I'm not a ghost, oh." Daniel smiled, but he kept looking at her like something was wrong. "Have you been sleeping well?" he asked. "Yes." "Why? You look different." Sandra went to check herself in the bathroom mirror. This time, the reflection didn't copy her. It blinked after she did. She slowly stepped back. The mirror version of her didn't. That is where grief came in. The next morning, Sandra walked out to throw away the trash. She didn't sleep well. Her dreams were strange. In one dream, she was standing on her balcony in the red dress, waving at someone with no face. As she dropped the bin, she heard a voice. "Did you wear the red dress last night?" It was Mrs. Oladipo. Sandra turned slowly. "No. Why? The old woman looked worried. I saw a figure on your balcony, she said. It looked like you. But something was wrong. Its head was turned the wrong way. Sandra laughed a little, but her heart beat fast. Maybe I was sleepwalking, she said. No, Mrs. Oladipo replied firmly. That dress, did you leave it outside at night? Sandra nodded slowly. Just once. The old woman's face changed. You must burn it, she said. Burn my dress? Why? Mrs. Oladipo stepped closer. That red dress was claimed. Spirits roam at night. When you leave clothes outside, they try them on. If one enters and likes what it feels, it stays. Sandra shook her head. You're scaring me, Ma. You should be scared, Mrs. Oladipo said softly. It hasn't fully won you yet. But it will. Sandra walked away, pretending not to care. But she was shaking. That night, Sandra tried not to think about Mrs. Oladipo's words. She told herself it was just old woman talk. Ghosts don't wear clothes. Spirits don't walk balconies. It was all nonsense, right? She made tea, sat on the couch, and scrolled through her phone. Then, she heard tapping. Tap. 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 It was soft, like fingers on glass. Sandra looked up. The balcony sliding door was closed. Curtains drawn. But the tapping continued. Tap. 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 She slowly walked toward the curtain. Maybe a bird, she whispered. She pulled the curtain open. Nothing was there. Just the glass. Just the quiet. Then she leaned in. And saw it. A set of eyes, clear as day, staring back at her. But they weren't hers. They were darker. Hollow. And they blinked. She screamed and jumped back. When she opened her eyes again, the glass was normal. Just her own reflection. She looked down at herself. She was wearing a blue gown. But her reflection had on the red dress. Sandra backed away slowly. She didn't know that the reflection was still smiling. And it had stopped blinking. Daniel came by the next morning with breakfast. Babe, you look tired, he said as Sandra opened the door. I didn't sleep, she whispered. She told him about the tapping. The reflection. The eyes in the glass. Daniel listened, but didn't look worried. You're probably stressed. Maybe even sleepwalking, he said, trying to calm her. But then, something happened. As she walked into the kitchen, Daniel's eyes followed her. Sandra, you're limping, he said. She stopped. No, I'm not, she replied. Yes, you are. She looked down. Her left foot was dragging slightly across the floor. She hadn't even noticed. He walked closer and gently touched her shoulder. Her skin was cold. Let's go see a doctor, he said. Sandra shook her head. I'm fine. But as she turned to face him fully, Daniel froze. What? She asked. You just blinked twice. But your reflection in the microwave didn't blink at all. Sandra slowly turned to look at the microwave door. Her reflection stood there, wearing the red dress. And smiling. Her real face was not smiling. Daniel stepped back. Whatever this is, he whispered, it's not you anymore. Sandra looked at her hands. They weren't hers anymore. Sandra could no longer deny it. The red dress was doing something to her. Changing her. She didn't smile the same. Her steps felt heavy. Her voice sometimes echoed, even when the room was quiet. She opened her closet and pulled the dress out. It felt colder than ever. And heavier, like it was wet. But it was dry. She took it straight to the kitchen. She placed it on the floor. then grabbed cooking oil and poured it all over the dress. "I'm ending this," she whispered. She struck a match and dropped it. The flame hit the cloth, but nothing happened. The dress didn't burn. The flame just died out. She lit another match. Dropped it again. Nothing. She touched the cloth. It was still cold. Still wet. Still wrong. Then she heard a whisper. Low. In her ear. Like someone was behind her. "Don't take me off." Sandra screamed and threw the dress into a black bag. She rushed outside and dumped it in the garbage bin. When she came back into the house, Daniel was waiting. "You need help," he said softly. "I need a priest," Sandra replied. But outside, in the bin, the red dress began to move. That night, the estate security guard heard something. He was sitting in his small gatehouse when he heard the sound. Rustle, rustle, tap. He looked outside. No wind. No animals. He got up and walked toward the garbage bins. He saw one black bag standing straight, like something was holding it up. "Who threw this here like that?" he mumbled. He reached to push it down. Suddenly, the bag burst open. The red dress flew out and wrapped around his face. The guard screamed, falling to the ground. He pulled and pulled, but the cloth stuck to his skin like glue. The moment it touched his eyes, they turned black. The dress fell off. He got up slowly, breathing hard. But now, his face had changed. His smile was not real. His eyes looked like glass. He walked back into his gatehouse like nothing happened. At home, Sandra finally fell asleep. But she woke up at 3 a.m. She was standing in her living room and didn't remember getting up. And she was wearing the red dress. She tried to scream, but her mouth didn't open. The spirit had taken more than her clothes. It was taking her body. Daniel couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Sandra's eyes. The way they didn't match her voice. The way her smile felt borrowed. The next morning, he went back to her apartment. But Sandra didn't answer the door. He knocked harder. Still nothing. Then he noticed the balcony door was slightly open. He walked around the back. What he saw made him freeze. Sandra was standing in front of the mirror again. But she wasn't alone. Her reflection was facing her. Like a person. Not a mirror image. Daniel rushed in. "Sandra." She turned to him slowly. But her eyes were no longer hers. They were dark. Empty. He ran to her. "It's that dress." "Where is it?" Sandra pointed to the closet. Daniel yanked the closet door open. But the red dress wasn't there. It was on her now. And it was growing longer, like it was wrapping around her body. Daniel grabbed her shoulders. "Fight it. You're stronger than this." Sandra shook her head. A tear ran down her cheek. I don't think I'm in here anymore," she whispered. Behind them, the mirror Sandra just smiled. It had taken her, and it wasn't done yet. Daniel ran to the one person who might help. Mrs. Oladipo. She opened her door and sighed deeply. "I warned her," she said. But she thought it was just a story. "She's not herself," Daniel said, shaking. "The dress, it's like it's wearing her." Mrs. Oladipo nodded. "It's called also ENI. Spirit cloth. It doesn't need a body to live, but it wants one to hide in." Daniel asked, "Can we take it off?" Mrs. Oladipo shook her head. "Not anymore." She went to her shelf and brought out a small jar of red powder and a black stone. "We must do a break-in ritual. Before midnight. After that, she's gone." Daniel and Mrs. Oladipo rushed back to Sandra's apartment. But when they opened the door, the lights flickered. Sandra wasn't there. Only the mirror. In it, she stood smiling. But the room was empty. Then a cold wind blew past them, and the door slammed shut. Daniel turned slowly. Sandra stood at the hallway's end, her head tilted, eyes black, dress flowing like water. But her feet weren't touching the ground. Mrs. Oladipo held up the jar. "She has one foot in the spirit world now," she whispered. "And one foot left to lose." Sandra floated closer, her feet never touching the ground. Daniel stepped in front of Mrs. Oladipo. "Don't come any closer," he shouted. Sandra smiled, but her mouth didn't move. Mrs. Oladipo quickly poured the red powder in a circle on the floor. "Keep her inside the ring," she said. The powder glowed faintly. As Sandra entered the circle, her body twitched. Her hands shook. "Spirit of cloth, we call your name," Mrs. Oladipo chanted. "Come out of the one you wear." Sandra let out a loud, screeching sound. Her eyes rolled back. The red dress began to shift, tightening, squeezing her like it didn't want to let go. Daniel dropped the black stone into the circle. A small flame appeared, then a loud gust of wind blew through the apartment. The mirror cracked. Sandra fell to her knees. For a moment, her eyes returned to normal. "Daniel, help me." Daniel reached for her. But the dress screamed. It pulled her back, lifting her into the air. Her reflection in the mirror came alive again, laughing. Mrs. Oladipo gasped. "We didn't break it. We made it angry." Sandra floated higher, the dress now glowing red. The spirit had one last plan. It wanted Daniel next. The apartment shook. Chairs fell over. Lights blinked. The walls cracked as if the house itself was afraid. Sandra's body hovered in the red glow. Her hands were stiff. Her mouth was open, but no sound came. Daniel held tightly to the black stone. "What now?" Mrs. Oladipo's hands trembled. "The spirit, it lives in reflections. If we trap it in a mirror, we can end this." "But how?" Daniel asked. She pointed at the large cracked mirror. "We must finish the chant and pull it fully into the glass. Then, smash it." Daniel nodded and stepped into the red powder ring. "Sandra, fight it." Just for a second. Sandra's eyes flickered. The spirit's control weakened. Mrs. Oladipo shouted, "Come out, clot of the dead. Mirror is your prison." The mirror glowed bright red. Suddenly, the dress tore itself off Sandra's body and flew into the mirror with a terrible scream. The reflection of the spirit, tall, shadowy, and wearing the dress, stood inside, pounding the glass. "Now, Daniel!" Mrs. Oladipo screamed. Daniel lifted a stool and smashed the mirror. Crash! The glass shattered. Silence. Sandra dropped to the floor, gasping for breath. The dress was gone. But not everything was over. A small red thread still lay on the floor, moving. Daniel picked up the red thread. It was warm. Almost alive. He dropped it quickly. But when it touched the floor, it slithered, like a tiny snake. Sandra sat up, weak and shaking. "Is it over?" Mrs. Oladipo stared at the thread. "No, it's trying to grow again." Daniel reached for a lighter. "Let's burn it now." He lit the flame and held it close. But the thread curled away, almost scared. He dropped the flame on it. The thread sizzled, turned black, and then disappeared. They all sat in silence. Sandra hugged herself. "I felt it inside me. It washed everything, through my eyes." Daniel helped her stand. "It's gone now. You're safe." Mrs. Oladipo looked unsure. "It's trapped, yes. But spirits like that, they always leave something behind." Daniel frowned. "What do you mean?" She pointed to the cracked pieces of the mirror. One shard had a reflection. It showed Sandra, still wearing the red dress. Even though she wasn't. "Throw it all away," Daniel said. They swept the glass and burned what they could. But far away, in the estate's dump, a little girl picked up a shiny red button. She smiled. And behind her, something dark began to whisper. 2 weeks passed. Sandra moved out of the apartment. She and Daniel found a new place, brighter, smaller, but peaceful. She smiled more now. She laughed again. But sometimes, her reflection didn't smile back. One afternoon, Mrs. Oladipo came to visit. She brought a small box wrapped in white cloth. "What's this?" Sandra asked. "A gift. And a warning," she said. Inside the box was a hand mirror, covered in white paint. "It's sealed. Spirit-proofed," Mrs. Oladipo explained. "Keep it in your house. If the paint ever cracks, it means the spirit is back." Sandra held the box tightly. "Why did it choose me?" Mrs. Oladipo looked sad. "Because you didn't believe. That's all it needs, doubt. Disobedience." Daniel added, "It came through something simple. A dress." Mrs. Oladipo nodded. "Evil never comes with horns. It comes quietly, on the wind, with a smile." Sandra promised never to leave her clothes outside again. That night, she closed all windows. She prayed. She slept early. But in a trash pile across town, a girl twirled happily in a red cloth she found. As she danced, her eyes slowly turned black. The spirit had found a new body. And it would wear her next. The little girl's name was Zainab. She lived with her grandmother in a small flat, not far from Sandra's old estate. She loved to play dress-up, and when she saw the shiny red cloth at the dump, it felt like magic. She ran home and wrapped it around her like a princess. "Grandma, look," she said, spinning in the hallway. But her grandmother did not smile. She stared. "Where did you get that?" Zainab blinked. "From the ground. It was free." Her grandmother moved slowly toward her. "Take it off. Now." Zainab tried, but the cloth wouldn't budge. She tugged harder. It tightened. She looked into the mirror in the hallway, and stopped. In the mirror, she wasn't smiling. She wasn't even blinking. Her reflection stared back at her, wearing a longer, older version of the red dress. Suddenly, her feet lifted off the floor. The hallway lights flickered. Outside, the wind howled. In her reflection, the spirit smiled. It was back. And this time, it had found someone too young to fight. So if you ever hear a voice calling from outside at night, don't open the window. And never, ever leave your clothes where the wind can find them. The spirit is still out there. Watching. Waiting. Leave a like, comment, and don't forget subscribe and turn on notifications for more interesting stories. See you in my next video.